First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather is within the ancestral territory of the Squabs, people of clear saltwater, the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Squabs live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's Central Salish Seas, as they have for thousands of years. Here, the Squabs live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty. And I probably butchered that name. All right, so a little introduction for those of you who haven't been here. The WHO, the WHO is Knowledge Connection Coalition, which is the in-formation nonprofit that kind of heads all of this. And there's 3 pillars. So the first pillar is knowledge sharing, and knowledge is either monopolized by privilege or confined to the minds of elders and needs to be shared. So a lot of this is about knowledge sharing. The second pillar is community connections. Through collective strength of community, people can find support and help each other throughout life and tough situations. And the last one's coalition building. Forging alliances among marginalized communities to collaborate on actionable solutions to unite and build a more equitable future. So the what is, so this is a teach-in, which is a knowledge sharing event. The idea is to engage in critical dialogue and community building through panel discussions and interactive exchanges. So the goal is to focus on facts and lived experiences versus opinions, which can hold biases and personal beliefs, which for those of you who were here last month, I'm very, I like to take responsibilities for my mistakes I make. And towards the end, the conversation kind of got me to a point where I made some biased comments. So I too am working on making sure this is based on lived experiences and as unbiased facts. I mean, everything's biased in the world, right? But just trying to have a level playing field. And then the why? Empowering individuals to become informed advocates and agents of change, and to serve as a strategy for raising awareness, promoting knowledge sharing, and mobilizing action on pressing issues. So, just an important thing when we do have the discussion, again, as much as we can keep it on questions and lived experiences. So a practice is, using I statements and kind of check yourself before asking a question. Is there a bias behind this? Is this opinion, whether it's a question or a comment? So really the idea is to, be aware of how we're interacting with each other. All right, so everyone, oh no, you can't see the bottom. Okay, so everyone has your little note card. On one side, take your pen and write your why. So if you've been here before, why did you come back? If this is your first time, why did you come? And then why is this important to you? The one that's missing is the you. All right, I'll give you 2 minutes. Oh, is the little Bobby thing on it?
Nope.
Okay, let me grab it. Another one. Is there another one? Okay. Here, I'll take the dead one. welcome. I got little bells today instead of yelling at everyone to stop. So you can keep writing. I'm just going to move forward. All right, so what can we expect? So the start time, we started 6:01, so as promptly as possible. We are going to end at 6:30, so that might mean needing to cut off. Sorry, 7:30. Thank you. Needing to cut off, conversations. We want to respect the space, and we all must be cleaned up. Welcome. Cleaned up and out by 8. So that being said, I love if you're having conversations with people. That's great. From 7:30 to 8, we will be cleaning up. So if you're having conversations, please move over to the kitchen to have those conversations so we can reset this space up for tomorrow. Okay? Awesome. All right, so our structure is, so we're in the housekeeping phase. I'll do a little bit of a previous talk recap and some lessons learned. We're not going to do word clarifications today, but I typically do word clarifications and definitions. There'll be a Palestine information based on the topic. We'll do an intro to the topic and the panel speakers. We have some great panel speakers today. And we'll have our panel discussion, so I'll be asking kind of questions between me and the panel. And then we'll kind of open it up to community discussion and questions. At the end of every teach-in, I give action tools. So what can we do as citizens, as humans, to help in any situation. But I'm really big into action, because without action, it's just a lot of talk, right? And I don't want to just talk. And then I'll give everyone updates on community events, and then mingling and cleanup. All right, so the ground rules. This one's a tricky one. So this is human, right? So this says this is not political or religious. However, a wonderful person, kind of asked me last time, okay, if it's not, last month's was about deciding the vote, right? And so obviously there's politics around that. And today you'll see the topic is about religion. However, this ground rule is that it's not about political or religious ideologies. Unfortunately, what is happening, the conflict in Palestine right now is rooted and steeped in politics, and they're throwing religion on top of it as to fuel the fire. But we'll learn today, and we'll see today, that it's not a religious war. Religions are involved because, again, it's easy to use religions to justify things. So that's what I want to make sure that clarity is. I'm not here to say, when we talked about deciding the vote, I'm not here to say you should vote one way or another. When we talk about religion, I'm not here to say one's better than the other. It's about learning and hearing lived experiences that are involved in this conflict. So want to kind of make that clarity. So this is a safe space. We want everyone to feel welcome. So obviously no derogatory comments, issues, questions, anything like that. No judgment. Calm conversations only. So far, so good. We've had 2. Last month's was a lively discussion, but it was very calm. So it was good. And if conversations do get bad, although I know most of the people here, so I'm not too worried about it, but if they do, I will ask people to leave if it gets to a aggressive point. No question is stupid, so we're here to learn. We're here to learn and get clarification around things, so please feel free and safe to ask your question, even if you're nervous or it might sound not great. It's okay. That's what we're here to do. And that goes to intentions are everything, and education is easy. So one of the biggest thing is, again, I said before, I'm from the East Coast, and I was actually just with my East Coast best friend the other day, and her partner are both, women, and in the East Coast we just use you guys as a general term for humans. However, it's gender specific. So I have a really bad habit of doing that, trying not to, but my intention is to be better at that and to learn. So if I use guys or you guys, please stick your hand up so I can correct that. All right, participation is really important. So we are going to have more panel speakers, but at the end we'll have a discussion and community community discussion and questions, so participation's very important. Action items are the goal, which I said, and then this is for everyone. So I do try to stress inclusivity. Okay, why am I up here? Palestinian American. So the trauma of what happened to my family in Palestine prevented me from knowing my ancestry. So this is part learning and healing for me doing this. Also to bring the community to learn about Palestine and give us space to discuss things we can do as citizens to fight injustice in general, right? It's not just in Palestine that there's injustices. As a social justice activist, for me, learning and unlearning is the first step to change. So again, I'm here to try to present as many facts and lived experiences so people can make their own choices. And then it's about spreading seeds of new perspectives. For me, it's if just one person speaks up or one person learns something new or shifts one perspective, that grows and spreads because it goes to one other person or their kids. And so for me, it's all about planting those seeds. All right, so last month, we'll quickly run through this. Not a lot of people are here, I think, that may remember. But our biggest takeaways are being informed when you go to the polls in November is really, really important. So welcome. Come on in. Have a seat. There's water and snacks if you'd like. So voting gives us a voice. Learning, it's important to learn about candidates, before you vote for them. So dig into the information. Learn where your tax dollars go. So last month I really, and there's a resources page, but last month we talked about kind of where our tax dollars goes as Americans. So really, really learning that. Attending local candidates' town halls. So we have a couple candidates from Kitsap who are going to take Derek Kilmer's seat. If you're able to participate and see what kind of stance and information they have, it's important to be involved in that. So there's tons of tools and action kits already out there. You don't have to make any of this up. I provide a lot of resources to be able to be informed on that. Understanding how PACs affect our democracy. Reality is we like to think that we're a full democracy, that our representatives kind of just make decisions based on their constituents. But the reality is there's PACs and super PACs and a lot of money that does influence. So research those, understand the candidate you're voting for, what PACs are paying them, and kind of where their money's coming from. And then communicate with your representatives, make calls. I'm in a group chat and someone said that the best response has been faxing, which a lot of people don't do, but because they have to clean out the fax machine, they're like writing back stuff fax. But the emails and calls, and there's a lot of action kits that you can kind of click a button and send an email. All right, so we are gonna today the topic is, is the war about religion, right? And like I said, I don't believe it is. There's I'm just gonna go. So Palestine originally was under control of the Muslim Ottoman Turks since the 1800s. Before 1917, residents multiple faiths lived together in peace. So one of our speakers will talk today about her family living in Palestine. There was a Jewish family living across the way, and things were great, and there was a lot of sharing. And so, before 1917, which we all know was the Balfour Declaration, violence between faith groups was very rare. Palestine is one of the most homogenous societies regarding religion in all of the Middle East. 93% of the population is Muslim. I'm not sure how things have changed, stuff like that. But this again, I provide all the resources afterwards. So and I send them out after. So you're more than welcome to kind of look through that. So Palestinian Christians belonging to denominations such as Oriental Orthodoxy, Eastern Orthodoxy, Lutheranism, Anglicanism, Catholicism, and other denominations of the Protestant faith. So my family was Palestinian Christians, and they were Lutheran Orthodox. So, a lot of, it's funny because I was at an event and I have a pig tattoo. And I was talking to someone, and and I was telling him I'm Palestinian, and he's like, "Well, why do you have a pig tattoo?" I thought Muslims don't eat pig, and I'm like, or pork, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not Muslim." He's like, "But you're Palestinian," and I'm like, "Yes, welcome, come on in." But I'm like, but not all Palestinians are Muslims. So there's a lot of misconceptions that we're here to kind of learn and unlearn. And then other religions in Palestine include Judaism and Druze. And my understanding of Druze, it is a sect of Islam. Do you know? So Druze is really big in Lebanon. So a lot of my Lebanese friends are Druze or Samaritan religions. So the Palestinian-Israeli conflict was initially dominated by a secular national movement. And I felt really silly because I had to remind myself the difference between non-secular and secular. So secular is non-religious. To me, it makes more sense for non-secular to be. But anyway. So again, it was more of it started more of a nationalist movement. And then many Palestinians do not see the Palestinian-Israeli conflict to be about the incompatibility or coexistence of the two religions. Many say, and I know my family, that we respect Judaism, but just oppose the Zionist side, which we learned they're not the same. All right, so what's so cool about Palestine is, and it's a holy land of three major religions, so Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And Jerusalem, which has been a big kind of flashpoint, but Jerusalem is, this is that major home. So, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock in Islam, so it's the home of that. The Umayyad dynasty built the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem in the 7th century CE. So it's, very, very old. In Judaism, Hebron is the location of the Tomb of Arab, and Jerusalem is the site of the ancient first and second temples. And then in Christianity, so this I was a little confused about when I was reading it, because I learned that Bethlehem was where Christ was born. But it says it's the birthplace of Jesus Christ and the home of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and in Bethlehem, the Church of the Nativity. But the idea is that it's a place where it's not just one religion or another religion. It's many religions. It's just like the world, right? And so there's that really big misconception that it's Muslims versus Jews, which is not. It's just not it. So this is a major issue. So religion-based rumors propagated by extremists in the media and social media about hidden religious agendas on either side exacerbates the tension. So this is a huge thing that is an issue, right? So one of the examples is that there's a rumor about this Jewish plan to destroy the mosque and build this temple, which is fueling the fire on the Muslim side, and then on the other side, Muslims, there are rumors that Muslims hold the annihilation of Jews at the core of their belief. So, there's this fire of like pitting people against each other based on their religions, which has been a thing for centuries, pretty much probably since the world has started. You can kind of see that with the colonization of the U.S., right? So they came because they were Christian. We got to give Christianity to the savages that live here, right? So there's a lot of using religions to justify wars and stuff like that. Okay, so just a couple of graphs here. So again, this is kind of the more religious groups. So Islam has more than one branch. So the Sunnis are a big branch in Palestine, and then you can kind of see the different Christian sects of Palestine. And then this graph was interesting to see. So it only goes up to 2,000, but it kind of shows the different religions that are in there, and you can kind of see that Muslims were a lot of the main ones. And then, 1914, you start to see a little bit of some Christianity and Judaism. And then you can kind of see the growth. And again, this is only to 2000. All right. So, has anyone seen the documentary Israelism? Oh, it's so good. Okay, so I wish I could play the whole thing tonight, but I'm not going to. I'm going to play this really wonderful part that kind of explains, that really put it into perspective for me. So it's only about, I think it's only about less than 5 minutes. And we are still... Oh, I'm going to pause quick. A little backstory, sorry. So the man that's in this, his name is Baha Hilo. He's a Palestinian tour guide that lives in Bethlehem, and his organization is to be there. So he brings a lot of people to the kind of realities in Palestine, but he says in a part of a movie, and I'm not sure if it's in this part, but he does see a lot of American Jewish people coming to see, so that's a lot of his tours. And then the woman is Simone Zimmerman, who is one of the main characters in the documentary. She's also the co-founder of the If Not Now movement, which is and I hate to use the word like left-leaning, but it's a Jewish American organization that is fighting for liberation of Palestine.
Okay. Totally stopping us from any sort of movement on this issue?
My first learning experience was when I was invited to go to Auschwitz on a bearing witness retreat. I actually say in Auschwitz I discovered one of the main reasons why this conflict exists today, which is this inherited trauma that exists in the Jewish community, where the feeling is that as Jews we're...
So you can find that, I believe, on Amazon, Vimeo. If you go on Vimeo, you pay the money you pay for it. It goes to them. So I would suggest going that route. But for me, what I really liked was, it gave me a better understanding of, again, like I try to understand as much as possible, as much as it's hard for me to still be okay with it, but it's a complex issue. There's a lot of inherited trauma. There's a lot of stuff behind it. There's a lot of other motivations behind it. It started with the British, who are the biggest, colonizers in the world. And so, if you haven't seen this film, it's really, really great. I cried through the whole thing. The song at the end is amazing. I have it on my phone. But yeah, I really like that part because it was just this interaction of the reality of things. And that's a big thing for me, is a lived experience and the reality on both sides. So, if you watch the film, you can see, the experience of a Jewish American person, and just kind of her journey and a couple other people's journey through it. So, really wanted to kind of just show that one section. Let's see. See if I can make this work the second time. Okay, wonderful. Now, without further ado, okay, so that's our topic. Who are we talking with? Nadia, and she told me I didn't have to say that whole last name, which Nadia Nasser, she'll explain kind of what it means. I'm going to try it. Abdul Hafif, Abdul Rahman Ismail Al Shama Ramahi. Is that right? Close. Okay. She'll correct me. And we have wonderful Dee Axelrod with us. So we're going to hear more about lived experiences. So I'm going to ask kind of questions, and I really want it to go where they feel it needs to go. And then I love let's give them a round of applause. So come on up, ladies. You got microphones ready. And they both asked me to give them some tester questions, and I gave them all different ones that I'm actually going to ask. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. But you see Dee's face? This is great. Okay, so let's start with, and then let's do this. Okay, because I have some pictures from with Nadia. So we'll start with you, Nadia. Can you just share a bit about who you are? I'm gonna put your photos up. So one thing you might not know about Nadia, she's an amazing photographer as well, Silver Leaf Photography. So yeah, if you want to give a little bit about yourself, who you are, connection obviously to Palestine, let me know when you want me to move the slides.
Sure.
Because you know what they are.
Does this work? Can you guys all hear me?
Yeah, I think it's more for the video, but yeah.
Okay.
You'll have to speak up.
Okay. So my long name, Nadia Nasser Abdul Hafid Abdurrahman Ismail Al Shama Ramahi. That's my Arab name. My legal American name is Nadia Mostrom, my husband's last name. But my Arab name is for in Arab culture, genealogy is very important. It's my father's name, his father, his father, his father, my sub-tribe name, and my tribe's name. And so I just thought it would be fun today to share that with everyone so you can see my whole family tree. And there's stories behind that, but we don't have time for all of that today. But I'm Nadia, and my father is Muslim and Palestinian. My mom is a white lady. I don't know what she is. She doesn't know her ancestry. But I have always identified with my Arab heritage, and I've been Muslim my whole life. And I'm also a photographer, like she said. I'm an amputee, actually. I'm a twin. I'm a Navy wife. And this is my family. This is my father, and this is his father, my grandfather. And that's a picture of my twin sister and me. I'm in the blue, she's in the pink headscarf. And I'll talk more about the lemon tree in a bit, but my family owns that in Palestine.
Okay, can we move on?
Sure. Did you want to ask me the question?
So why don't you tell us a little bit about this, so where the pictures come from?
Okay.
Let's start with that.
Okay.
So where are all these pictures from?
In 2012, I had the amazing experience of visiting my family in Palestine, and I went to Jerusalem, Old Town Jerusalem, and this is Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Masjid that she mentioned earlier, the Prophet's Mosque. This is me and my sister there visiting. I took a bunch of pictures. I prayed inside of Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Okay.
And this is outside of Jerusalem. This is the gate into Old Town Jerusalem. There I got the picture. And then from the plaza that Dome of the Rock is in, you can see through those arches, there's two beautiful churches right there. Because, I mean, like she mentioned, there's so many religions in the area. And, I mean, they're not that far apart. They're right there. And so I just thought that would be a cool thing to share. And these are all in Old Town Jerusalem. That's my dad and my sister walking in the middle one there. And the other two pictures are at the market in Old Town. And I might talk about this more in a bit, but this is in a city called Kilkilia that I stayed in for a couple of weeks. My aunt lives there right now, and it is completely surrounded by a wall. The land outside of it is really lush, awesome farmland. My family had some farmland out there, but the Israeli army wanted the land for the great farmland, but they didn't want to make the citizens of Israel, so they put a wall around it. The people that live there, they know that they live in an open-air prison. I stayed there for about a week and a half, and I got these pictures. Because they took all the farmland surrounding the city, there is a small plot of land inside of Kilkilia, and that's where this barbed wire is. I'm standing in the farmland. Families, instead of having orchards and fields, they have like a plot of land that's maybe half the size of this room, and that's all their family has. And the tree that was in the first slide with my pictures was one of our family's current lemon trees. We had like a lemon tree, a couple orange trees, olive trees, not very much. But that's all Palestinians have, little plots of land inside of this city. And this wall, there's in that top picture, you can see there's a guard tower. There are actually armed guards in it. And on the wall, in all different languages, there's messages of hope, of resistance and protest. And you can see some of them here. Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. Occupy this. And I
like this one that says, "This wall is so 1989."
Yeah. So There's just so many messages. This is just a few of the ones that I got. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was the end, right? Yeah. Okay. So why did you agree to come speak today?
I have actually never spoken before. And I don't claim to be an expert on Islam or Palestine. I know my experiences, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. I'm not an expert on anything, but I'm very honored to be able to share my story here, and I think it's important to hear different people's perspectives, so I hope this is interesting and or insightful to you all.
Awesome. All right, we're going to bop over to you, Dee. Can you share a little bit about who you are? Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Are the cords going to be okay? Yeah, just watch the... Yeah, we can slide. Yeah, if you want to keep...
How's that?
Is that better? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You
So
wanted to hide in the corner. He
that's
told
right.
you.
I'm one American Jew, just one. And what I have to say does not purport to speak for the Jewish people as a whole, but it's my experience, my lived experience, and that is all. And I'm not an expert in Talmud or Torah. You know, I'm not pretending to be. I'm just one Jew. Here I am. And I've been a waitress, I've been a college professor, and most recently was a senior editor at Yes Magazine. And I feel obligated to speak up, and that's why I'm here. I've watched what's been unfolding for 7 decades, and, you know, it's heinous.
Good, you answered my second question. Okay, so this is going to be a question to both of you, but obviously different. So Nadia, can you share some basic tenets of Islam or what you would like people to know about Islam?
In Islam, there's 5 pillars. The first one, the Shahada, is the belief that there's one God and the Prophet Muhammad is the messenger. And then there's 4 others, fasting during the month of Ramadan, zakat, which is charity, praying 5 times a day. We do our prayers at a specified time according to where the sun is in the sky, and Hajj, the pilgrimage that we're required to make once in our lifetime if we are physically and financially able to do so. Those are the tenets.
Okay, and Dee, I know we have spoken, so what you would like, you know, either the tenets or beliefs of Judaism or your connection to Judaism.
Oy. There are so many different ways to be a Jew and so many different kinds of Jews that it's sort of a daunting question. So in thinking about the question, I look for the common denominator, and one is monotheism, a single God without form, without an image that you can see, and the centrality of study of the Torah, the Talmud, the Tanakh, and especially of the debate and discussion that went on for centuries among scholars. So enshrining debate and disagreement as part of the religious practice is, to me, very touching. What else did I want to say about it? But what most is central to me personally is the thread of social justice that runs through, that is not always honored, but is there. And when Hillel said, "Justice, justice shall you pursue," and that which is hateful to yourself, don't do to your neighbor, all the rest is commentary. You know, to me, that's the heart. And anyway,
Great.
take it away.
Like I said last month, and I shared the resources, which I can send out again, and there's pamphlets in the back from a website called Trua, and it's a kind of social justice, a justice-oriented Jewish website run by rabbis, and it's quite beautiful. If you read through it, they use the Torah to. Oh, that's a socially anxious dog that lives downstairs. So his owner must have left. I know. You can hear it sometimes when you're up here working.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, someone's phone. But it's wonderful because they use the kind of the tenets and stuff in the Torah to really, focus on social justice. So I appreciate you bringing that up. All right, so this will go to both of you as well. Nadia, can you kind of share your experience growing up as a Palestinian American Muslim woman? Yeah. So that's an intersection of an identity, right? Yeah. So we all have different intersections of our identities. So can you share kind of what that was like?
So my father was a very strict Muslim dad, and my mom was very non-strict, lenient, agnostic. And so I kind of got pulled in two different directions. My parents agreed that they would raise us Muslim because my mom didn't care about religion and my dad cared. And so I was raised very strictly. And I always knew that I was different. When I was a little kid, I knew that I didn't celebrate Christmas like all my friends did. I didn't have any Muslim friends at all. I have a twin sister and a little sister, and so they were my friends. But I mean, nobody in my community was Muslim. And
where'd you grow up?
Oklahoma. So, mostly Christian based in the area. And I grew up being, very accepting of other people because I was different and everyone around me was something different than me. And it was very easy for me to know that people were different and it was fine. And it didn't really impact me very much aside from, saying, oh, sorry, I don't celebrate Christmas or Easter or any of the things that all my friends did. But as I got older, my father made us wear the headscarf when me and my sister were 11, 12 or so. And that was very difficult. And then I know that this was another question you were going to ask, but around 9/11, I was in 7th grade. I had less than a year been made to wear the headscarf, and it was absolutely terrible. It's Oklahoma, and at my school, I remember the first day I went into my English class. I laid my head on the table, and I didn't want anyone to see that I had a headscarf on because it was going to make me so different. I wanted to be proud of it, but I mean, my dad taught us the rules of the religion. Growing up, I didn't know the beauty that I eventually found in my religion. I just knew I was different, and so but it was very difficult. And then right after 9/11, people were very, very mean. I lost friends. They said they can't be friends with Arabs anymore. I got physically and verbally assaulted many times. I've had people try to rip the headscarf off my head. I would be walking in the grocery store with my mom, who's, like I said, American white lady, no headscarf or anything, and then, two twins, so we both were wearing the headscarf. And they would just come up to us and say, you're going to hell for what your people did, and, go back to where you came from. And I'm I'm born in Kansas. But it was really difficult. I was young. I was 12, 13, and those very formative years, and I lost self-confidence. Girls want to be pretty and cool and stuff, and I wasn't any of those things at that time. And so I really, really struggled. As I got older, I was I'm going to leave Islam when I turn 18 because my dad made us be Muslim. But as I got older, I actually researched that religion, Islam and other religions, and I learned that, this makes sense to me. I actually like this. I ended up going to a mosque. I married my first husband was a convert to Islam, and I learned a lot. And I had a stepfather that actually passed away, and his death made me think a lot about death, and I became really religious for a while. And I don't wear the headscarf now, obviously, but I wore it again because my dad made us, and then we stopped for a while, and then I wore it as an adult by choice. But around the time Trump was being elected, I had a lot of difficulty because friends of mine had gotten assaulted and things like that, and I just didn't feel safe. It is a requirement in Islam to wear the headscarf, and I chose not to out of fear, and then I haven't done it since. But I'm still Muslim, and I am a practicing Muslim, and I've made a lot of friends that are Muslim and a lot that aren't, and people have been much more accepting as I've gotten older. But it's basically my experience.
Thank you. Yeah, I was Palestinian Christian, and I've said this before. When I was a kid, I was really, really dark, and my hair was really, really kinky, and so my mom's got really kinky, coily hair. She's really round, so I looked a lot like my mom as a kid, and I look more like my dad now. But I was in high school at 9/11, and I've said this before. I didn't learn I was Palestinian until I was 27. I was told I was Lebanese, but still Lebanese, Arab. I used to just say Arab in general, and I got. Taliban is your Uncle Osama gonna bomb people? And it was awful. And I wasn't like a popular kid, but I played. I was a kind of a chameleon. Everyone knew me. I was friends with everyone, but it just, even some of my friends, like, it just came out just as this like gross hate of these kids that don't know anything. You don't know anything when you're that age, and so I can imagine. I didn't know any Muslim Arabs in my area, but I can't. I knew what I went through, and I didn't have something that. The only thing that showed was my skin, and people knew. But yeah, it's and it's funny because when the Trump and the whole banning people from Muslim countries, and I had some friends that are like, oh, you're just lucky you're not Muslim, and it's just. Just very, just ignorant, like not realizing like we're humans with an experience. And again, when people weaponize religion, is just, it destroys things, So, all right, Dee, you're up. Can you share your experience growing up as a Jewish American woman?
Yeah, it's a little bit further in the past, 10 years. So I have to transport you to 1950s Boston, the North Shore of Boston, which is a very particular place and time. The Brahmin, kind of waspy, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants kind of had a stranglehold on that turf, and everyone else was an outsider. So if you were Irish, or you were Italian, or you were Jewish, you were the outgroup. And in addition to that, it was a beautiful place. There was a lot of open land that wasn't built on. Parents were really lax. They threw you outdoors, and you'd stay outdoors all day until the street lights came on, and then you'd come in. So total freedom, which was great. And the neighborhood was really friendly. Everybody shared hand-me-down clothes, and we had neighborhood. It's this 50s suburban ideal, but for us, for the Jews, it was built like a thin crust over a kind of magma chamber of horrific fact, which was the Holocaust, because all of that was emerging in the early 1950s and mid-50s, and people were having a hell of a time trying to process that. And I remember there being a lot of fear in my household that we not stick out, that we not be loud, that we not bring it down on the Jews, right? And my mother used to send me out of the door with this saying, what one Christian does is his own business. What one Jew does reflects on all other Jews. So like 7 years old, I'd be, whoa, better not step out of line. So that, my family were skeptical Jews. They wouldn't cut ties with the Jewish community. My grandfather founded the first conservative shul in Salem, Massachusetts, although he made it to look as much like a congregational church as he could get away with. And we may not have believed in God, but we did believe in history. So out of pure cussed stubbornness, as much as anything else, we were going to be Jews, and if you didn't like it, you still would be Jews. And history had taught us that even if you didn't want to be Jews, you would still be construed that. So we went to a Reform synagogue, which is really watered down version of Judaism, I realize now. And I think I said this in the other speech I gave. I parted company with them when they fired the youth director for being gay. I got up and I left, and that was that until my mid-30s. So I think that's enough.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that you weren't necessarily tied to the religion of Judaism, but you were still a Jew. And so the university I went to was upstate New York, and it was majority actually a Jewish population. So my roommate, best friends, we had off for all the Jewish holidays. We didn't have off for the only Christian holiday we had off for was Christmas, but we didn't have off for, sometimes you get Good Friday off. Back in the day you would. And I remember going back to New York City with my roommate during the holiday time, and they had a Christmas tree up. And I was like, wait, I thought you were Jewish. She's like, oh, well, yeah, we're Jewish, but we're not practicing, So, I learned a lot with a lot of her friends and stuff, kind of seeing it's more, and that's one of the great things about Judaism. It's more than just a religion. It's a culture, it's a heritage, it's, and so that's we kind of talked about this taproot of history where, you might not be practicing, but you're always still Jewish. And I think for me, a lot of the stuff that really hurts is, my friend that I had mentioned cut ties with me. She is a Russian Jewish immigrant who also was never practicing, loves Christmas more than people I know. And, she cut ties with me. And so, that's the kind of stuff that, there's this separation between Zionism and Judaism, and then, this other layer of, non-practicing Jewish people. So it's this taproot of history, which I think is, amazing, and it connects people. But I think there's a lot of, the situation's taking advantage of that. And so, next question. So Nadia, you did go to Palestine. You shared us some experience. So can you share some stories and stories of your family living in Palestine? And actually, you shared with me kind of your experience going to Palestine as a Muslim woman. Can you share that?
So my family lived in Palestine for generations, and you touched on it that we had a farm, a huge farm, so many orange trees, huge orchards, so big that local companies use our oranges for their products. We also had cattle, and then we were kind of outside of the city of Ramla at the time, and there was a road that kind of led to the city, and on the other side of the road was a Jewish family who had a farm, and the owner of that farm was great friends with my great-grandfather. They got along for a very long time, great friends. And then when the whole Nakba happened, the massacre in 1948, rumors spread and people hear about oh my gosh, this is happening. So our family heard about it, and they fled to a local refugee camp in Jericho. And they thought they were only going to be gone for a few days, maybe a week. So they took nothing. They didn't take family heirlooms, they didn't take money. We had, back then before banks and stuff, people would put money in little tin cans and bury it. There's treasure out there, and because they never were able to go back. And so they thought it would be a few days. They went to the refugee camp, and they weren't allowed back because their homes were no longer theirs. Their orchards, their fields they've lived in for generations, no longer theirs. And they built a mud hut, mud bricks, one room for the family. It was my great-grandfather, his wife, and their kids, my grandfather and his brothers. They lived in this hut. They thought it'd be for, by then, a few weeks or maybe a few months. It was 10 years. They lived there in that one-room mud hut for 10 years until finally they started scattering. One of my dad's uncles went to Germany, and I think my grandfather, the other uncles all went to Jordan, which is where many of them are now. And my grandfather actually immigrated to Brazil, which is where my dad was born. His first language is actually Portuguese, then Arabic, then English. So that's my family's history in Palestine. And then you mentioned about me going there. I have an aunt that still lives there, and my stepmother's family lives there as well. I went in 2012, and before this, I would say I really didn't know what was going on in Palestine. My dad mentioned it, but I didn't know anything about the Nakba or any of that. And then I was just having a vacation, seeing family, and I thought it was all great. And we actually went to Jordan for a couple weeks first, and then we went to Palestine. We wanted to see Dome of the Rock in Al-Aqsa, and we wanted to see my aunt and my stepmom's family. And getting from Jordan to Palestine was quite an experience for me. I mean, I'm a sensitive girl, American girl, you know, I'm soft, and I wasn't prepared for what I went through. I mean, many people are going through way, way worse than I went through, for sure, but I wasn't prepared for it. We were crossing a checkpoint to get into Palestine, and you were wearing your... me and my sister, we weren't wearing hijab like in America at that time, but when we go overseas, everyone's wearing hijab. We wore the headscarf and the dress thing, the abaya, and so we wore all that, and we got to the checkpoint, and we don't speak Arabic. I know a few words. I do not speak Arabic. I can barely understand conversation, and nobody there spoke English. It was just my father, me, and my twin sister, and we went up to the counter, and they asked him some questions. I didn't know what they were asking him, and then they took him away, and they didn't tell us where he was going, why he was going, what we were supposed to do, how long it would be. And it was terrifying for us that our father was just taken away from us. We had no idea anything that was happening. And we were just standing there, and some person handed us paperwork. At least that was in English, so we sat there filling out some paperwork. Then one person with broken English told us, oh, you can go sit over here. So we went and sat over there, and 2 hours went by, and we were freaking out, like, oh my gosh, where's our father? Is he ever coming back? Because by then my father had told me stories of, we had family members that, since 1948, and who knows how long before that, people would disappear. Family members would disappear, never be heard from again. So we were like, oh my God, is this it? What are we going to do? But he came back. It was 2 hours, but it was a horrible 2 hours. And then I mentioned I'm an amputee. I have a prosthetic leg. My amputation is just at my ankle. It's not very big. And they wanted us to go through a metal detector. And so I've been through airports, I know the drill, and I was like, can we just put it on the conveyor belt, and can I just hop through the metal detector? That would be so much easier. Can we just do that? They were like, nope. And then they put me in a little room. My dad and sister were with me, and they made me take off my hijab, take off my abaya, so I was in my underclothes, and there was a curtain separating me from the hundreds of people going through the checkpoint, and they asked me some questions, or my dad had to translate, and then they're like, okay, we'll be back. And they took my leg, and a prosthetic leg, and they just when they left the room, they just left the curtain open. And they did that intentionally. They want to harass us and make us feel uncomfortable and be disrespectful. And it was very disrespectful for them to do that. And so the whole room could see me and everything. Eventually I got my leg back and put my clothes back on and went through everything. And we got to Palestine, and then we went to the city of Kilkilia, and that's the city I had the pictures with the wall surrounding it. That's where my aunt lived. And I already touched on this, but people know that they're in an open air prison. They buy a parakeet at the local pet shop. They go to their friend's wedding. They live their lives, but they're not free. One of my cousin's wives was pregnant, and she was having some complications. There is a hospital in Kilkilia, but it's small. It doesn't have all of the tools and everything. And she needed to leave the city, and there's only one entrance, one exit in this city, and it's controlled by the Israeli army, and they can say yes or no for no reason. And so my aunt needed to go, or cousin's wife needed to go out to get medical care. They just said no. There was no reason for it. They didn't suspect anything. They just said no. They didn't feel like it that day. One time, one of my cousins was away from his wife and 2 kids for work, and then he was trying to come back in the city, and they said, no, sorry. And it took 2 or 3 days, I'm not sure, for him to be let back into his family. They didn't hear from him. They didn't know where he was, and that was a regular occurrence. And I went to Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa masjids, and over the years, I've seen those holy sites of ours be raided in not the news, but, people that share about Palestine and what's really going on there. And so it broke my heart because I was like, oh my gosh, I've been there, I prayed there, and it was very heartbreaking for me to see that. But I think that's the gist of my experience.
Thanks, Nadia. We'll take a minute. That's a lot, right? But yeah, thank you.
That's really hard to speak after that.
I know.
I honor your experience there.
Have you traveled to?
Yeah, I went to. I just have to add a note. In 1967, when the 6-Day War happened, I remember seeing people who were Jewish, who I knew, just so elated and just so overjoyed, but I was not. My initial reaction was, what is this? Why are we so happy that we are running over people? This is wrong. And I haven't seen anything to make me change my mind since then. So it's been a long time of not liking what the Israelis are doing. And okay, so in 2011 I went to Israel. I went as a journalist. I tried to get into Gaza to do a story. They wouldn't let me in. I went to Old Jerusalem. I stayed in the Muslim Quarter in the Hashimi Hotel, which I loved. I did not identify myself as a Jew. I just kind of low-keyed it and stayed there and got to know as many people as I could just by shutting up and listening, basically, if they could speak English. And I got lucky because the woman who ran the hotel with her husband was an English woman who had converted to Islam. And she had moved to Old Jerusalem. He had not told her he was married already and that she was wife number 2. So when she got there, she wound up establishing a whole separate household. So this poor schmo had to run between the 2 houses, supporting both sets of children, kind of. So she was very open, and I got a sort of slice of life from her. I went from, and I loved Old Jerusalem, and I loved meeting the people that I did and spending time with them. And the sad truth is I liked them a lot better than I liked the Israelis, and I just have a hard time with that, but that is the fact. So I went on a bus by myself to Bethlehem, and I stayed in a refugee camp called Desha, and really, once again, just talked to people and listened to their stories, and kept my mouth shut, basically. So for me, and coming back through the checkpoint, which was, it is a cattle run that you would see cattle run through when they're going to be branded or something like that. And it was many hours in the hot sun. And when I got to the head of the line, and there was this young Israeli soldier who with his gun was in charge there, I just remember looking at him in the eyes, and what I said to him was Shanda. And that is Hebrew for shame. Shame, shame, shame. And he was ashamed. But there he was. So the wall is nothing that you see in a photograph can prepare you for the reality of that wall. And as a Jew, I can't tell you what it means that people that I'm related to would emerge from their own trauma to turn around and dehumanize a whole people is so effing... I can't even put it in words what it means to me. Now, okay. Keep going. So,
If you want.
if I want.
One of the things I heard Dee speak before, and one of the things that really touched me was she had mentioned, carrying this burden and feeling, not sure the word you use, but feeling that it's
Weight.
the weight. Can you speak to that a little more eloquently than I can?
Okay. So I can't pretend that I have no relationship to Israel. I can't pretend that those people are nothing to me or that I have no connection. They're mishpucha, which is a word that means family. They're like the cousins who are doing heinous things that you wish were not part of your family, but they are. So in some way, I have to take a stand in relationship to them. I don't have the luxury of being off the hook and saying, well, they're over there and I'm over here, and it's something I feel compelled to do, which is open my mouth, stick my neck out. There are a lot of Jews who don't like it if you do that, and there is probably invisible to you, but very visible to me, some really bitter infighting going on among the Jewish communities and within them here in Kitsap. I have a friend who's been essentially ostracized and kind of excommunicated by her synagogue, all of them lining up against her because she is sympathetic to and human and open to hearing this other point of view and wants that represented. Now, I'm kind of proud of my little family of Jews, which is Shir Hayam. I've sort of been waiting to see what they would do. And what we've done is hire an Israeli rabbi who has been protesting on every corner for months against this government, this right-wing government, and who is a really awesome, amazing alternative human being. And I can't wait to sit down and talk to her. You know, she's the first woman ever allowed to be a rabbi in Israel. You know, she's quite something. And she is willing to stick her neck out. So that gives me a little bit of hope, and also that my community, who are frightened a lot of the time and try to be as invisible as they can be a lot of the time out of just general fear, we're willing to make this choice. So that means something to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So again, if you haven't seen the film Israelism, it explains, you know, it brings all of that too. And that's kind of what I talked about last month, is kind of weaponizing anti-Semitism is a real thing, because there is anti-Semitism, you know, and you know, when it's oh, poor little baby. When it's conflated, you know, you lose the true anti-Semitic acts of, you know, people, you know, bombing synagogues, or, you know, and so they speak a lot about that in the film as well. So I appreciate both of you. I wish I could continue with the questions, but I do want to stay on time. So I'm going to open it up. Let's see if I can get this back on. I'm going to open it up. If anyone has questions or wants a clarification on anything. Am I doing this? What, is it warming up? Well, I'll open it up. You can ask questions. Oh, and I'm going to pass this around. So if you would like to ask a question, just so the video can hear you. Anyone? Bueller? And then you get to pass it on to the next person. Thank you.
My name is Keely, and I just wanted to thank both of you so much for sharing your stories, and I'm honored to be here and to share in that, and I find myself feeling very hopeless, you know, thinking about this, but I also feel very hopeful listening to you. So, and just the power, I really want to believe and hang on to the power of sharing stories and being and listening collectively in community together, and the power in that. And so I'm just really trying to hang on to that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone?
Hi, my name's Ryan, and much like you, I don't pretend to be much of anything else, but I'm quite knowledgeable that I'm very not knowledgeable. So the reason why I started getting involved with this stuff is because I have a young man here who represents himself very well, and is not happy with the things that are going on, and I didn't understand it enough. And so I could read as many things as I could possibly read, and quite honestly, this is a very intricate conflict. And so every chance I get to ask a question, I do. And one of the things I don't understand is like exactly how many different types of, like Whitney pointed out, thankfully, there's a lot of different religions down there. And so I don't really understand if all the Jews are all on the same side, or if there's different Jews that are on different sides, different Muslims that are on different sides, you know, because it seems extremely intricate. Could you maybe please give a...
Want to address that first?
As far as Muslims go, I haven't seen a single Muslim other than those that are pro-Palestine. I'm sure there are out there. I haven't encountered any, and so I really can't speak to that. I don't know.
Okay. That's a really good question, because there are, in fact, many shades of opinion among Jews, but those are not represented in the media, generally speaking. Some guy will get up and say, I'm speaking for the Jews, and this is what it is. And that's one reason people like me should open their mouths, because in point of fact, it is complicated, and there are many who oppose what the right-wing government is doing in Israel. And within Israel itself, there are people who oppose. So,
And before the major divisions, I mean, there were Palestinian Jews, there were, it wasn't just like Israel is Jews and Palestine is, Muslims. So, and that's, what a lot of people don't realize is, attaching a ethnicity or nationality to a religion, to me, it's dangerous, and so.
Can I add to that?
Mm-hmm.
This past Easter was around the time of like Ramadan, and people that were in Palestine were speaking about how, like, oh, Ramadan, Muslims are praying on the rubble of mosques and things like that, but it was lesser known that so many Christians, I mean, they're getting bombed too. They couldn't go to where they wanted to go to celebrate Easter, and I mean, they're suffering just as much out there. There's a lot of Palestinian Christians, and not just Muslims. And it's awful.
I have another question.
Well,
Is
let's give.
Yeah,
Does
someone
anyone
else,
else have a question before we double up? Okay. Wonderful. Anyone? Go ahead.
Yeah, there you go.
How do you both navigate the situation where it's like, it's not even just like Jewish individuals and Muslims, it's like American society at large for folks that don't, not at large, it's hard to describe. How do you navigate when like folks who are not necessarily involved in the conflict have like the vibes of militaristic intervention? I'm talking like, how do you both navigate, both like emotionally and within your communities, the fact that the United States is militarily involved in something to the degree of like big stuff? Not even necessarily on any side of the political spectrum, it's just like, how do you cultivate hope in that? Because like you, I sort of struggle with that. Like, how do you stop? Stop it.
Here's where I say that's a really good question. Yeah, no, I mean, ask me how I feel about our supporting this war with all the, the might that we send over there. I'd like to see an end to all of that. Of course, I'm not alone in that. We're so complicit. No one here in this country can say this doesn't involve them. We are supporting it. And to some degree, we've created it. The way I think of it is, all right, if you have a kid and you tell that kid, you can do anything you want to anyone you want, anything you want, what do you think you get at the end of the day if you do that? And in fact, that's sort of what the U.S. has done with Israel, sadly enough. And I just can't, I don't know that I see a way out of it, but I see people's attitudes shifting, and that's good. That's positive.
I don't have a lot to add. I mean, we share. We continue sharing. I've had people like on Instagram sharing stuff, I mean, there's so much more you can do than just sharing stuff, but I've had people say, wow, I didn't know that. Like, what, can I boycott something? Is there some place I can send money to? So people ask questions, and you don't stop sharing. You don't stop getting it out there. I mean, that's like not all, but a large part of what we can do right now and what people are doing. I have tons of Muslim friends on Instagram, and it's just like you don't even see their personal life anymore. Everything they're sharing is about Palestine and all of that, and that's what they're just trying to get people to know and for other people to share and find ways to make differences that way. Yeah.
Oh, I'm tempted to make a political statement. You better stop me.
Yes, I am, because we are going to end the questions there. My apologies. No, that was great. So if you do have more questions, please feel free to write them on the back of your card. That's for that space. So I want to thank both of you for coming with some small little tokens of my appreciation. And so these baskets are from an artist named Salma Bozai. She's the founder and director of Beit Al Turath in the Salfit area, which is turning into a refugee area in Palestine. So for 15 years, she's been buying the straw, which is olive and wheat, from local women. She dyes it, dries it, and then she makes a beautiful basket. And then she offers these trainings to make these Palestinian-style baskets. And she's inspired to preserve the authentic Palestinian heritage while also supporting local women. So these are from Palestine. And then in there's little red keffiyeh, pocket notebooks, if you ever want to just have a pocket notebook. So thank you both. I appreciate it. If you have a seat, you can leave your microphones on there. So we talked about what we can do. Here's some stuff. So the first thing is contact your reps. If you're part of the email chain, I send out different emails and stuff that you can kind of contact your reps. Supporting local groups, and that's not just here. As you can see, I'm wearing my Pride keffiyeh. So solidarity is about supporting other marginalized humans. So support if there's other local events, other local groups. Show up. That is important. Attend events, which is just what I said. Sign up for those email lists. This month I put an email list of Palestine Legal, which is a nonprofit that fights injustices in the U.S. of silencing Palestinian voices, and it shows kind of their legal actions, which is really cool. Always checking ourselves. What are we buying? What are we saying? How are we acting? And just really that reflection. And then boycott. So on the resources page this month, you'll see a resource to the BDS updated boycott list of all the different companies that give a lot of money to the war in Israel. So that's back there. There's a bunch of other wonderful resources back there on the table. There's also the event sheet that I do. And then Leah, will you show that page that you're picked up? So talking about sharing stuff, I was part of a group that did the Seattle Walk for Gaza, and they put this list together. So it's a bunch of different people that you can follow. I think it's mainly Instagram, which is rough because I'm not on Instagram. Got to get on Instagram. But they put that, so it talks about Palestinian voices and different things. So those sheets are back there. I will also be sharing the resources folder next week with all the resources that are here. So the boycott list is back there. These are the sources, which I will also share. Upcoming events, those weekly demonstrations are still happening. I think I finally got the days and times right and locations. So in Bremerton on Sundays from 1:30 to 3, Paulsbo's on Fridays from 4:30 to 5:30 in front of the Viking statue here. Sundays in Kingston and Bainbridge, the Sundays swap. They're every other Sunday. So the May 5th and May 12th are kind of your starting points. They're usually they're by the same group. That's why they swap. So these are things you can show up at, show your solidarity, wear your colors. And then there's actually a big thing on Sunday. I know it's kind of last minute in Bellevue. The Washington Democratic Convention delegates are going to be convening to bring certain things to the Democratic National Convention. And there's a big protest that's happening out there because they defunded UNRWA, so they're going to fight for that. So if anyone wants to be a part of that, that's in Bellevue from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. And then Kitsap Pride, not this month, but next month at the fairgrounds on July 20th. If you go to kitsappride.org, they actually have a lot of really cool events leading up to it. So there's like comedy. I think they're showing the birdcage at different events. So again, supporting that. Really, we're in solidarity with each other, right? Okay, next month, exciting. So we're going to talk about the parallels between the Native Americans' colonization and genocide here in the U.S. To the Palestinian colonization and genocide. So Chairwoman Amber Caldera of the Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe is going to come talk. Still waiting on confirmation from the Suquamish tribe. And then Hunter Thundercloud, I'm either going to be doing a virtual interview with him or he's going to Zoom in. And he's from the Ho-Chunk Nation in Wisconsin. Same time, same place, July 18th. So in closing, we're going to just take, oh good, we're on time. We're going to take 2 minutes. On the back of your index card, you can write either or all, something you've learned or took away, any questions, ambiguities, anything you want to learn or hear about in the next ones, or one action item that you'll commit to doing. So I will give you 2 minutes. Yes. You can put what you would like to know more about. You can put, yeah. I love these. So these are my family's. They come from Palestine, which is really funny because when my aunt first gave them to me, I'm like when, I was just kind of a little confused because I didn't know about my ancestors or my history. So excited I get to use those. All right. So again, there's options to support this to continue. You can do a GoFundMe donation, or options are you can purchase items that will go towards the donation. So Zach, our awesome young youth here, his band Negligence donated the stickers for sale. So you can buy the stickers. And then there are packets of za'atar from a local spice company. So Spiva Cooking in Bremerton he made the logos. I mean, he made the whole thing. Super awesome. And then Allison from Volka's Mediterranean Market in Bremerton donated a very nice bottle of Palestinian oil from Jenin, which are parsed out in the little bottle. So a Palestinian breakfast package, or Palestinian breakfast is typically the oil with the za'atar and pita bread. And then next month I will be bringing a local bread maker, will be making some fresh made pita for us. So right now, Back there, if you want to purchase anything, it is an honor system. There's sheets that have the QR code that takes you right to the GoFundMe. Just put the amount, how many stickers you bought, or the za'atar and olive oil are a packet together. It's $20. You can just, scan it, put that in there, and take one with you. So more options than me just asking for money. Speaking of that, if you do want to just give money, you can just scan this QR code to donate. It covers the speaker's gifts. It's really important to me to make this accessible, so every month is going to be recorded, and I ensure, because being a small business owner, I want to make sure that the people here who are giving of their services are getting paid what they should be paid. So, venue rentals, materials, all that. So thank you all so much, and we are 4 minutes ahead of time, which is great. So thank you all so much. Hope to see you next month. If you have any questions, if you want to mingle or talk, please make your way to the kitchen. I want to grab a picture with you two, if that's okay. Thank you all. You guys are great.